Hi everyone, thanks for taking time to join this session today. My name is Joe Bieger. I'm one of the sales consultants here. Joining us today is Nick, who's one of the ABACUS consultants. I'm excited to talk about ABACUS solution and how it can be a game changer for your organization. Now, firstly, I'll speak about the evolution and how and our history, our product ABACUS. Secondly, I will speak about some common challenges our clients use ABACUS to solve. Thirdly, Nick will give you a short demonstration of how ABACUS works, and finally, we will answer any questions. Now, some of the common challenges that we see clients use ABACUS for is building and maintaining a meta model. Another one would be application lifecycle management. There are a few others that's commonly used or utilized by other clients and customers around the world. Application rationalization, gap analysis, it really depends on the company's needs and requirements, but they're the ones that we see them quite often. Now, a bit about our company. We've been around for 18 years. We started as a spin-off from University of Technology about 18 years ago. Now we reach about 100 countries around the world. We have about 2,000 companies. So we help them from pretty much 6 major offices. Our head office is still in Sydney. However, we help clients all over the world. Now, in terms of our peer insights, at the moment we've got 4.7, which makes us a leader in the enterprise architecture. We're recognized by Open Group. We've been there for many years, and we're well established in terms of the enterprise architecture solutions. Now, this slide shows you that we have clients and customers all in different verticals and different industries. So really, the idea is to help customers and to build better enterprise architecture. So we have a huge amount of experience, and we use this to make sure that your organization is empowered with the best enterprise architecture. So you've seen what we think of ABACUS and what some clients think of ABACUS. The next thing is to show what the experts think. In terms of how our tools are perceived, we are a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant and the Forrester Wave. So we feel this reflects the hard work we put into making sure that ABACUS is flexible enough to help effectively in real-world situations. So while we're at the Gartner Summit, we're happy to see that the trend is in line with ours, such as getting most out of the data in terms of analytics, and need to collaborate across organizations. So we have addressed this by visualization, algorithm composer, advanced analytics, editable data visualization platform, and ABACUS Enterprise. The Avolution received the highest vendor score, 10 out of 13 criteria, and the overall highest score for both current offering and strategy. So as you can see, we are ahead of the crowd, right at the top right corner. So why ABACUS? You have seen what your peers think of ABACUS and what the experts. So really the question is, what makes ABACUS different from all the other FBA tools, and why are they choosing us? 3 main reasons. One of them is the flexibility that we have. We actually support more than 100 different frameworks. ABACUS supports over 100 different frameworks and notations across a broad range of domains and verticals. So that's one of the things that really makes us outstanding out there. The Avolution framework is one of the best breeds inside of TOGA, BPMN, APQC, CAF. Another good reason is flexibility. ABACUS is often cited as one of the easiest to use. The VBA tools being one of the most familiar in terms of Windows. We use similar interfaces with Windows. We have right click and left click and drag and drop. That makes it really user friendly. Pricing is another good one. So ABACUS is one of the most cost-effective solutions for pricing. So really, as you can see, we help all the enterprise architects and stakeholders and and portfolio managers to understand and analyze and communicate better. At the end of the day, we are there to make everyone's life better. So you can see here from this trend, ABACUS enables you to work more efficiently, reduce costs, reduce the risk, and basically what we try to achieve is to help organizations to save hundreds of hours in terms of the IT certifications, technical debt management, data centralization, capabilities and all that. So really what you'll be investing in this in the future is a fraction of what you'll be spending. Now to summarize, ABACUS provides you a way for all of your stakeholders to be fully informed of what's happening within the organization, as well as showing you the results of any action or changes. So you can be rest assured that ABACUS will provide your organization with the best enterprise architecture tools available, allowing your organization to move forward with ease, confidence, and success. Now, Nick will give you a demonstration of ABACUS 6.0 in action.
Perfect. So, before I get started, just to give you an insight, so ABACUS is a bit of a two-pronged approach to enterprise architecture. And this image that I've got here is basically how we depict the two tools in our tool set. We've got ABACUS Studio, so that's the first tool I'm going to be demonstrating today. And that is where we do the heavy lifting side of things. So this is where you're going to be bringing in your data, creating your connections components, your constraints, so the rulings behind your method, where you generate your catalog and diagrams. So once you've got all this, that's all well and good in the AI, in enterprise architecture, but you're wanting to get that data out, and this is where ABACUS Enterprise comes in. So this is our visualization platform, this is the second from, where you start creating dashboards, start really giving data ownership the actual data owners, rather than having to chase around with various Excel spreadsheets and other ways of getting the data updated. So that's just a quick overview of what I'm going to demonstrate today. So I'll just quickly get myself on to ABACUS Studio. So, like I was saying, this is our heavy lifting side of things, where you'll start bringing your data in. And the first thing I want to show you here is our method model that Joe mentioned before. So we consider it a best of breed approach. So we've developed this method model. I'll just open it up. Hopefully you can't see that nicely. I'll zoom out. So what you can see, so start from top to bottom, from project strategy through the capabilities, process, application, people, and the technology at the bottom. But what you probably can see here, this particular method model isn't made up of just one framework, it's a hybrid method model. So this one's made of the likes of TOGAF with archaic notation. We've got DPMN in here with the processes, PAF, and like of APC as well. So it just starts to show how you can actually start bringing in multiple different notations in the framework. Now, I'm assuming that some of you guys are either looking for inspiration from a model, which is one thing we like to say that we believe our method models can do. Ultimately, though, if you have your heart set on a particular model from the start, we support multiple out of the box. So I'm just opening it here. All the different frameworks we have are standard, so these are available out of the box. So you can see such things as Archimate, DPMN. You've got the Stackman, the TOGAF with Archimate, TOGAF by itself. So you've got all of these different frameworks with their notations that you can use out of the box. So basically, start from scratch from there if you wish, or you can start, as Joe was saying before, using the flexibility of ABACUS and basically creating your own method model, your own business. At the end of the day, no business meets one particular structure. So, for example, here we've got this level 3. One thing that we try to improve when we work with you and choose to go with ABACUS is not necessarily start with a big bang approach. Look at this instance, we've got every component possible. But if I start breaking it down, we've got a level 0, 1, 2, and 3. shown here. So one thing you could do, depending on the maturity level of your EA team, you might want to start a little bit higher. So again, just trying to demonstrate the flexibility of just building out your meta model here. You can start off with a few high-level components, get that initial data set in, and then you can start building out to levels 1, or you add another layer onto that, start building out that complexity, start building out those added connections. So you can really build it up incrementally, which takes the strain off the EA in itself, because it's not got thousands of data to deal with in an instant, and it helps you gradually manage this. So that's what we try to support by having these different iterations. Now, obviously, I'll just go through what we have on the window here. So it looks like a Explorer window. So here we've got our preview in terms of your meta model. This is where you create your different component type, connection type. This is where you'll set all your particular concepts, so the rulings that basically dictate what components connect to another within your enterprise architecture. Then you have your separate architectures. So one thing that we do support is multiple architectures within the meta model. So we've got here the meta model level 0, which filters down to level 1, 2, and 3. And we use this as a reference point. We found a lot of architects find that really useful. And you can start creating different versions of your architecture. So you can see here we've got a historical, so previous archive version, so you can always refer back to where we're at a point in time. We have our current state, but what you'll probably want to do at some point in time is start planning future state. That's what we have here in terms of our evolution, as we call it. So it's ultimately taking snapshots of your as-is. You make changes to the scenario, whether it's importing new data, making changes to particular properties, which I'm going to go into shortly. And ultimately, you can start then comparing and synchronizing your architecture. But how do we get this data in? One way we do this is through our catalog. So if I open this here, instantly, there's a good chance you'll get quite overwhelmed because we've got a heck of a lot of content. It's quite frankly a bit overwhelming. But what this is ultimately showing is this is our application portfolio. What you can see in the top right is we've got 1,067 applications. And we can see that here, this is showing type, this is our component type. Down the left, each of these are the individual applications we have within our repository. Across the top, we have a selection of properties. So if I start going to see, you can see the likes of your application manager, that was a property, the stage of an application, the recommendation value, business fit, technical fit, so on and so forth. We've got the likes of life cycle date, got financial information into here. The other thing to point out within a catalog is not only have you got your different properties, which just are all completely configurable. So we're looking at the application components here. If I have a look at within our properties, let's have a look here, open this window on the right hand side. What you can see, we've got all these different properties, so the information, all these different types of reviews. All of these come out of the box. So as you can see, there's hundreds, and these are standard. One thing to point out is you don't have to use all these from the start, but they are there for you to create your own. So I'm going to assume that each business is going to have your own bespoke properties against different things, whether it's application, service, project. You can start then adding these personalized properties onto there to really start giving that extra sense of depth to your data. Now, once we have the properties in here, what we also have are the connections, our relationships to these applications. And these can be seen on the columns, which have these little arrows here. So we can start to see what application these applications what server it's hosted at, what database it interfaces with, and platform services required. You can start associating known risks that it has there as well. the other applications that they interface with too. And this is just the particular application template. Now, one thing to point out here, you can see that you can color code all these different values as you would in a spreadsheet, but these are done automatically, and as you would with creating a formula. What we've got here, this recommendation value. These values are driven by these two values here, which are using our algorithm composer. No code algorithm composer, and I will go into this a little bit later to give you an idea on what on earth it is. But ultimately, we're generating properties from our existing properties. So these values here are derived from a calculation that we've preset on these two values. So, for example, these two values equate to, say, this less than 3 but more than 2.5. We'll probably say that the recommendation we can set this to retain and best, and it starts generating these values for you. So you can put in your data and set rules and constraints that will produce new properties. So obviously we've got this particular data set here. How do we get that in there? What you can do is actually export this view to Excel. So if you've got a spreadsheet, which no doubt many do, what you can do is format these in terms of changing the different columns, reordering to however you need your spreadsheet in quotations there to look. You can export this and then import back and create new content in your repository. Now obviously not all data is sat within Excel. So one thing we do actually do is we have direct integrations with SharePoint, Technopedia, ServiceNow, amongst others. We also have a REST API, which basically means if you have a CMDB where you've got data support, two-way REST API, so what you can do, as long as any system that you're using, if this has an open API, you can actually connect that system to Avolution and import your data. So, all well and good, now we've got our data in here, but ultimately, you're probably going to want to start creating formal visualization. So I'm just going to take you through a few of the visualizations you can actually start creating within Avolution. Now, first of all, we're going to go and have a look at our business capability map. Now, this is made from or designed around the ABACUS framework, and I believe that has like 6 or 7 levels. And just for reference, if you guys don't have a particular capability model, the ABACUS is a really good resource, a free resource to point out that you can get industry-specific capability models. So if you want to go and have a look in there to start designing your own, then that's something we can actually import into here. But one thing that you can see here is the blue boxes are capability, and how do I know this? So if I click this general property box at the top, we can see its capability. And what we're seeing here is all the processes that underpin this particular capability. So all of these are different colorations, and this is driven by what we call a heat mapping effect, and I'll show you how we do this in the diagram, just to really make it clear. But what this is basically looking at is a bit of a rag state. So based on the recommendation value, so we've got green for one value, yellow for another, orange for another. One thing we can actually do when we click on these processes, we have the references button here. When I select this, what I can then start to see within App Studio is everything that's connected to this. So I can start seeing the departments and applications that this particular process underpins. So you can start really appreciating the level of detail that can go down. So traversing through the different relationships, starting with the capability, looking at our process, and seeing the departments and applications that it's connected to. Now, obviously, this is great for a high level view, sorry. But what we can do is actually drill down a level further. Now I've clicked into this, and what we have here is a swim lane diagram that's showing the capability and the processes that within it, and this is done based on the BPMN notation. So what you can start to see now is, if I just open this window, is this particular capability with all the processes that underpin it, how they connect, start events or end events, these goals that it's connected to. You can see the applications that it's connected to and different gateways and decision points. So these can be made automatically, and one thing I'm going to show you shortly is the different ways that we can actually start generating these diagrams. So first of all, let's look how we could manually create a diagram. Actually open up previous diagram that we have here. And what we have here is our application interface diagram, which is a subset of the 1,067 applications that we had a look at before. And again, what you can see here, it's color coded, again, using the heat mapping. And I'll show you how we do this very shortly. But if I zoom in, what you can actually see are these different annotations. Now, these annotations are driven from the properties that we have set. So within the applications, we have a criticality score, which we've set colorations on. So level 5 here, and one down here we've got a level 4. So you can see that's a flag status. We can start seeing the language that a particular application is written in and whether that language is approved, in this case, not. We can start generating validation scores where you can see, well, actually, this is using an out-of-date language, we might need to start doing. So it's very high level impact assessment. We can also see different connections as well here, so we can see what platform service is in there. Just making sure, can everyone still see my screen okay? Right, bear with me, guys. Want to just stop sharing and I'll reshare. Hopefully, I'll just refresh the screen. Okay, guys. So looks like we're back where we were. So again, I'll just zoom out and thanks for raising that. It's good that you guys can actually see what I'm displaying. So yeah, like I was saying, this is again based on the heat mapping effect that we have, and again, just covering quickly. If I zoom in, this is where you can see these annotations here. So we have the criticality score here. We have this approval based on the language that we're using for an application and the connection to a platform service. Now, like I was saying, these are all based from our properties that we've generated. And I know I've mentioned a couple of times about the heat mapping effect, so I'll just show you that in action. So what we have here is a stencil window. Now, when we say stencil, it's basically creating a lens on how you can view a diagram. So, for example, this diagram here, we're looking at these applications based on a recommendation score. Now, we can take a copy of this diagram and change the settings so we can actually show the finance. So you might have two different stakeholders that want to see the same diagram, but from a different viewpoint. So what we can actually do is, in our stencil here, is we can change these colors based on a property. So this is where you can see based on a recommendation value. What we can then do is go in and let's change this to look at some financials. So let's look at our PTO. Rather than looking at specific values, we can look at it based on a range. So we can look at our cheapest application, have it green, so you can start changing the colors here. Our most expensive, let's say red. And change that. And then all we can do, click OK, and it automatically updates this here. Now, one thing I do want to point out with our diagrams here is it does work very similar to the likes of Visio. Joe mentioned before when he was talking that you can start dragging and dropping. But one thing that I really want to stress is this is not just an image. It's not just a diagram. Anytime we make alterations to any of these components, that is what we're doing. We're making changes to the components in our repository. So, for example, if I drag on a new application, Now, if you cast your mind back, I'll add this on as a new application. Cast your mind back to the catalog. We had 1,067. By going here now, we have 1,068. So I've just added a new application to our repository. So this is actual data. Now, another thing to point out is that obviously if you're working with the likes of Microsoft Visio, if you make any changes to your components in any data set, say if you have 50, you're going to have to go through each individual one and change those manually. And let's face it, that's pretty tight. But one thing you can do here is, if I can actually click the right part, we can actually start creating the connections as you would in Visio. And what you can also do is create existing components of the diagram. So in this instance, we have over 1,000 applications. So rather than duplicating the work or duplicating the data even and invalidating your data set, you can actually start searching through the repository when you're dragging and dropping. Just by typing here, it's given everything that we've got here. And as you can see, we've got some very imaginative names for our applications. But what we can do is actually select data that's already in our repository, so we're not duplicating data. Again, we can still create those connections. And one thing that I will point out, so if I click on this ERP example here, it's red because we've got identified it's our most expensive. And if I go into this property window and we're going to our financial and change this here to 1, which I can do, it changes it automatically. And if this is, like I was saying, if this has got, if you've got this particular component in multiple diagrams, all of these diagrams are going to update depending on how you set the stencil and viewpoint. Now, another thing that you can actually do is create drill down diagrams with these. So I can actually, if I'm wanting to start saying, well, that's fine, all well and good in this particular scenario, you can see how CRM connects to a database, and we can start seeing the connection with what kind of connection it is. So we've got properties on the connection. You can see the protocol between application to application. What we can do is create a drill down diagram. So this is a really good way of viewing everything that's connected to an individual component. Now we have these templates here, and I'll go into these shortly. What I can do is just select it here, and what it'll do is automatically generate a diagram. There we go. It's come up, and what we can see is everything that connects to this CRM application. So we can start seeing the likes of departments, processes, databases, projects. So you can just get a quick snapshot very easily of everything connected. Obviously, this is just a visual depiction of the references that we went through before. So we can see all of this here. So this is how you could start creating diagrams manually. Another way you can do that is using our element selection. And we can actually start searching through our repository here, picking out specific parts of the repository and deciding which individual components want to create that. That's a bit more advanced, and it's something that we definitely cover in training. So this is just something that you can start making your diagrams a bit more detailed, a bit more specific, rather than just looking at a subsample. So you can start designing diagrams based on their particular properties, rather than just a group of applications. So we've covered how we can look at diagrams being created manually. We can actually start creating diagrams automatically, and I'm just going to show you a sample of how this could look like. This is done basically by using what we call a world according to script. And we have multiple scripts and algorithms, as I mentioned before, that come out of the box. Now, the world according to script is basically, as you can imagine, world according to a particular component type. In this instance, we've run this based on a capability. And what we've done is generated an automatic diagram via these different groupings. These groupings are based on a template. If I open that up here. So you can see this particular template is set up based from our meta model. So our people strategy project all the way through to our technology down at the bottom. And that's what you can see here. So we have this managed information technology capability. We can see the departments and the people as we have classified the strategy, the project, services, other applications that it's connected to, down through your servers and into your infrastructure. So what you can start doing is generating these particular sets of diagrams. And I'll give you a demonstration of how quick this is to do. So just to show that I'm not at all, this is where our diagrams are going to be produced in here. In this here, what I'm going to do is run our world according to function, which if I open up our scripts, these are the algorithms which I'll cover shortly. We have our world according to scripts. Now I'm going to do this based on application. And as you've seen, we have over 1,000 applications. And let's face it, if you have an individual application owner for each of those applications, but some poor person's job is to create a visualization on everything that these applications are impacting. Now, if you're doing that in any other tool, in all honesty, it's not going to be worth your time or effort, because by the time that you've created these diagrams, they're going to be out of date. Now, I've just run on this. So I'm running this live now. It's going to take about 30 seconds to generate these diagrams. If that, so there we go. But like I say, what's happened now is this. What you can see, click the right place. What you can see, we've actually got this new folder here. And what you can now see, once I open this out, we have all 1,068 diagrams generated within a matter of seconds. So if I open one of these up, ABACUS, again, it's set out in a similar way. Something this, it's quite a detailed one. So we've got ABACUS that's sat here, it's showing the details, how it connects the capability and processing of services, the locations that it's impacting, and the platform services. So you could have one of these for each of your applications. These scripts can be tailored by yourselves or by working with us for any of your components. So this is showing it through the applications. Obviously, we've seen here that you can do this based on out of the box anyway, application department information. With a few clicks and changing the scripts, all we can do is change this to a new component, and you can start generating these diagrams quite easily. So that's all the diagrammatic functionality. Another way that you can view your data is obviously we'll look at our meta model in terms of components and properties. Another way that we really look at our data is the connection. And this is where the matrices really come into their own. So we have two different kinds of matrices. We have our direct matrices, which I have opened here. So this is pretty straightforward. What we have on the left is our processes, and across the top, applications. And you can see the direct connected, so intranet and maintain productive assets as a process. But what you can start doing is using these to create connections. So I can just double click here, and I've created a connection. And again, similar with the diagrams, this isn't just a visual nicety. This is creating data. This connection is now in our repository. So whenever you generate any new diagrams, that connection is going to be there to show if you have this particular process and application in there. So it's just creating it centrally. So once you save this, anyone who's using this project will be able to see this new connection that I've made. Now this is a direct matrix, so you can see it's a process, showing the connection type, and the application that it's in. We also have an indirect matrix, and these are very good in terms of showing a pathway between one component and another. So cast your mind back to our meta model whilst I open this out. And if I go into our level 1, what we can see here is we've got a department looking at an application to a process. So that is the pathway we're wanting to see. The application starts in the middle, but we want to see the department use an application to get to a process. What we can do by looking at the indirect matrix is we can actually see how they are connected and what's actually connecting them. So rather than a direct matrix, we're looking at a component that's connecting a process to a department. So what we can start to see here is if the intranet application goes down, we know this particular process can't be used, which is going to impact at least this particular department. So you can start getting a good idea of a quick impact assessment based on these matrices. Just conscious of time, I'll just show you quickly the algorithm composer. I believe Joe will send out a video that goes into a bit more detail about what the algorithm composer is. But just so you can see this, I will open one of these up now. So let's have this particular one. Now this is an example of our no-code algorithm. So what you can see here, we have these algorithm blocks on the right-hand side, and it's a matter of dragging and dropping these onto this window. And what we've done here, we've dragged the start event on, that we're looking at our projects. And what we're now doing is basically Sorry guys, can everyone see my screen again? The call just cut off briefly. Perfect, thank you. So as I was saying, what we've got here is basically our projects. That's what we're saying we're getting from our architecture. And we're looking at getting properties from this set of components, so in this instance, projects. So we're looking at getting the return on interest years 1 through to 5. And what we're then going to do is we're performing a calculation, in this instance a sum. We're setting this as a property, so the return of investment for the next 5 years. So we're aggregating these values. So you never really have to worry, now we've got this algorithm, when you're putting the ROI dates in for year on year, you don't then have to go and perform your own calculation. The algorithm will do it for you, and you can set these to run whatever interval you want. So you might want to set these to run throughout the evening after you've input all your data, or you can run them live as soon as you know your data is ready, and it will start producing new properties. So you can do this, as I was mentioning before, based on business fit and technical fit. That might drive a recommendation value. So you can take two different scores. So you might look at having a particular, say, an application. You're judging its business fit based on the cost and the number of users. That might produce a score. Afterwards, you might think, well, I want to know where my users actually are. So you can start providing a weighting to those user departments. You might have finance being rated 5 weighting, say HR rated 1, because then that will start driving the different scores and recommendation values. So you can really start personalizing these, and this is something that we support as part of our product service, shall we say. So we can help you create these. You can obviously do this alone using our online tools and guidelines, but this is part of our support that we really help with our clients. So this is everything I've got to show you with ABACUS Studio, and I'm going to quickly just zip through ABACUS Enterprise. So what I have here, I'm just going to give this a refresh because I've not used it in a while. What this is our visualization platform. This connects directly to your central collaboration repository. So any data that your enterprise architecture team creates within ABACUS Studio, as soon as you save and commit this as a team or individuals, it will go into a collaboration server.
So you're working on Studio collaboratively. Every 5 minutes, this will refresh with the data from your collaboration service. So it's pulling in live data, which will update your visualizations. Now you can start creating user profiles within ABACUS Studio, so you can start setting permissions for who can see what particular data. You can also start setting permissions in here. So one good thing with this, you can start creating these dashboards and assigning them to individuals. And as I said at the start of the demonstration, this is where you can start giving proper ownership back to the actual data owners. So what you can start doing is setting these dashboards. And as we went through before, you can start adding a catalog into here, and you can filter these down based on a particular user. So they only ever need to see their particular data set that they want to update. It's pre-filtered, so you can pre-filter it down, and they will only need to enter that data. So you can actually start editing the data within here. I'll show this within the application portfolio soon. But just to talk through some of these visualizations, so you probably recognize this diagram here as our business capability map. So we've brought in a diagram that we've generated in ABACUS Studio. And again, you can actually drill down into the diagrams that we did before. What you can also do is click into the different components. And what you can start to see then is a Sankey diagram with the process in the middle and all of those connections it's leading out from and what's actually coming into this. Now this is one particular view of a business capability map. This here is exactly the same diagram, just in a different format. So this is what we call a tree map. And we can see here we've got the management and support process, and this is sized based on the value, which you can see here. That's again driven from our properties. And if we drill down, you can see the colorations are actually based on a recommendation value. So we are now drilling down into these. We're looking at process and payroll now, and now we can see the different applications that underpin that process. Again, colored based on the life cycle value. This one here, red, retire, eliminate. The green one, retain or invest. I'll come back out to this. That's one particular view. Another one, if we go into our applications, again, similar principle. I'll not zoom in on this one, but you can see this is the USA and all the applications. Similar setup in terms of the recommendation value and the financial value. And you can personalize these to be based on any property that you have within ABACUS. So what you can actually do is, when I was saying you can create your subsets, so say for example here we have this catalog, and if I scroll to the bottom we've got 1064 results. We know that we can filter our catalogs. So what you might want to do is, for example, we have our application manager here. Let's look for Mary. We've just selected Mary. You could actually have that set as her particular dashboard, so she only can see the data that she needs to update. And what you can actually do with these dashboards is, if you've got Microsoft Teams or SharePoint, you can actually embed this particular dashboard into Teams. So if you've got a stakeholder that the thought of using an enterprise architecture tool is a little bit daunting, they don't need to know. All they need to know is this could be their dashboard. They go into here, they populate their data, and it will drive changes to all the different diagrams in here. So you can save changes in here, and it will affect the central repository. Now, so this, again, this is just a simple catalog view. So if you just need someone to update a spreadsheet, you don't necessarily need them to see any visualizations. You just want to get their data. This is where you can actually just give them a selection of properties or data sets that they need to put in. So it might be their particular set of applications, and you want to know either the start date or end date, and that is it. That could be their responsibility. They might not need to see a business fit, technical fit, the recommendation value. You can really start personalizing what data they can actually provide. Now, another functionality within ABACUS Enterprise is our various visualizations that you've probably seen at a high level. Now, what we can see here is, I'll just show you the different visualizations that are available. But we've got a bubble map here and multiple pie charts. Now, again, this is driven from our central repository, so we have over 1,000 applications being mapped onto this bubble chart. And we're looking at our technical fit against our business fit. And let's face it, other than the pretty colours, this doesn't tell us that much. But what you can start doing is using these pie charts to filter down. So let's have a look at our level 5 criticality apps. Fine, filtered again. Let's have a look at the ones we're going to retire. Filters again. And let's have a look at our end of life. Filters again. So we've now filtered down to 3 pretty important factors here, and we've narrowed it down to 38 applications from well over 1,000. We can hover over here and just see that application 582, again, an imaginative name I know. In the brackets, we're showing how much it actually costs. So what we can see here, this is it's a good technical fit and it's a good business fit. It's highly critical. It's about to be retired or eliminated, and it's coming to the end of its life. So this starts provoking the thought, well, what on earth are we going to do with this? Something needs to happen. So it starts provoking actual conversation points with your stakeholders. So let's just take these filters out. So that's one visualization view of this and how you can start really analyzing the data. Another functionality we actually have is this road mapping capability. And ultimately, I've saved the best till last because this is pretty cool. So this will take a couple of minutes, then should give us 10 minutes for you guys to ask away on any questions. So this is based on, again, our lifecycle properties. So anytime you bring in a property, rather than having to create a Gantt chart within Excel, MSP, whatever tool that you want to use, you can put one of these Gantt charts in there and it'll automatically pick up the different stage gates that you have in there. So we're looking at our capabilities and processes group. We can drill down, and again, let's have a look at our operating processes, cash mine back to our business capability map. This is where this is driving from. What we can see here are the different capabilities. If I hover over here, we've got an evaluation stage gate and a production stage. If I hover over one, it's got a few more. We've got evaluation, development, and the little blue one is testing, which is hard to see because it's a very tight window. But this is an aggregation of all the processes underneath it. So we filter down again. We've now got the processes here, and again, they're stage gates. So you can start seeing the timelines for your processes, but ultimately, these processes are built upon from an aggregation of the applications. So we can then see everything that builds up, traversing through our meta model. So we're looking at application timelines that impact our processes, then processes that are impacting our capabilities, and you can start seeing these timelines. Now, obviously, we've done this on processes, capabilities, and applications. You can start doing this for your projects, programs. You might want to look at your server timelines, for example. Ultimately, anything that you have in there, you can start generating these views for. Now, I've spoken a good deal about a lot of detail within here, so I'm just going to open up the floor there to you guys. If you want to ask any questions, feel free.
Hello, it's Krzysztof from RB. I have a great question about the heat map and application health status. How it is built, based on what kind of information. So, for example, if I want to know if the application is out of support, so Microsoft already announced that it's not supported anyway. Is it automated, or I need to put this data manually?
So one thing we do actually have, let me just hop back over to Enterprise, is with I mentioned before, we have our direct integration with Technopedia. So that is one way you can actually import, because that's its own separate repository. So if you've got a license Technopedia, you can bring in those dates direct from Technopedia. If you have those dates, so we have some already in our standards. So these are based on software, hardware. This is pre-populated. We update this intermittently to get these updated dates. So you can basically have those end of life or end of support periods as a property. And what you can actually do is once you've set the heat mapping effect to a particular date, so again, this is where you could use an algorithm, say after date X, you can see that it's set as unsupported. So as I went through let me just go into this diagram, where's it gone? Here, where we've got, in this instance, we're looking at Java being approved language and VB6 being unapproved. We can actually create those settings, or you can create that settings as a one-off in your stencil to automatically produce the heat mapping effect. Does that answer your question okay?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
That's fine. Great. Perfect. Is there anything else, guys?
Any other questions?
One question from me. Is there any mechanism, to alert owners of the items of the applications, like say application managers, that the item is not reviewed or is out of date, or can we set up some kind of algorithm to send reminders, that the application item should be reviewed, on a periodical.
That makes sense. So there is a functionality that when something is changed, that you basically can assign an email address. So in this instance, say an application owner, you can get that sent to an email alert sent to them. Another thing that we actually have is this validation point here. So you can start setting constraints on your different properties. So if something is out of date, it would trigger an alert or a validation error. So whenever someone logs in, they would be able to see that their particular application, if something's out of date, it will trigger them an action ultimately. But yeah, you can create email alerts.
Okay, and what about the ServiceNow synchronization? I mean, if there is some changes on the items on CMDB, can we automatically populate it to ABACUS?
Yeah, so what you can actually do is you schedule an import. So where we've got this ServiceNow, it's just a matter of mapping any data that you've got within ServiceNow and synchronizing the components and connections into ABACUS. So if that's going to be your main source of truth for ServiceNow, that's fine. You can actually schedule to import that data on a schedule of your choosing.
Can it also be the other way? Yeah. So the ABACUS, if ABACUS will be the source of truth, and send this configuration to ServiceNow.
Yeah, you can actually, you can. It's a two-way sync. So if you're using ABACUS as the source of truth and you want to update ServiceNow, that is something that you can do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
Excellent. Let's see if there's any more questions from attendees.
And if there's nothing on your minds right now, everyone, obviously feel free to get in touch.
Yep. So basically, as you can see, the ABACUS tool is quite easy to use and it's very flexible. So really from here we can assist you with a few things. One of them would be the 30-day trial. Just let us know whether you need an on-premise or cloud, and we can approve it if we haven't done that so far. Case studies, we can always provide you with relevant case studies. If you are in finance or if you are in any other industry, we have many case studies and success stories that we can share with you. So that's the second thing that we can help you with. You can always request a tailored demo, so we can come up with another demo focused around your organization, which will help you to understand and see how you can use the ABACUS for your organization. Pricing, I'm happy to give you some pricing. All I need from you is to give me the number of architects or number of portfolio managers, whether you need any integrations with SharePoint, ServiceNow, just let me know and I'm happy to give you some indicative pricing. The last thing would be, what I'll be doing today, I will send you an email, or maybe one of my colleagues will send you an email so you can have our details. And if you have any questions or if we can help you with anything, please let us know. Excellent. Well, if you didn't have any questions, thank you very much for your time and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.